We're at Ruby's Tacos in Pilsen, but the history of Ruby's Tacos wasn't always in this neighborhood. 30 years ago, it started out at Maxwell Street. That's where I fell in love with it.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Maxwell Street. We should go check it out, but after we eat these tacos.
We got some good food here.
Standing here on Maxwell Street, named after a Chicago doctor who was an immigrant to this city. And this street represents immigrant pride in the culture and certainly immigrant food. Isn't that right, Brother Rick?
It certainly does, and there is nothing more iconic than a Maxwell Street Polish that came out of that initial immigrant settling here of all the Jewish people that came into Chicago, and then it became a complete melting pot.
And following the history of Maxwell Street almost follows the history of Chicago immigrant population identically, right? So Maxwell Street starts off German, right? And so does Chicago. And then we start to have African Americans come, and then so does Maxwell Street. And then finally, people from Mexico and other Latino descents are derived in Chicago to come to Maxwell Street. It lines up pretty perfectly.
I came down here when I first moved to Chicago, when the market was still on this street, and I had some of the best food of my entire life. I will never forget the peach fried pie that I had here. All of the Mexican Americans that moved into this same neighborhood began to bring their food and their ingenuity into the market. And so many of the immigrant families got their start on Maxwell Street and then actually moved into storefronts.
Maxwell Street electrifies the blues for the world. We're also the place that sends America's first African-American congressman post-Reconstruction to Washington, D.C. So you can study history, culture, and music by studying Maxwell Street.
And don't forget food.
Well, you know what I always say, we're making history every day, and the history of Maxwell Street can be found first when it went to Canal Street, and now on Des Plaines, where you can still find very proud Latino Chicagoans keeping on the tradition of street selling.
Tune in on October the 19th at 6 p.m. for the Chicago Public Library Foundation Awards.